We live in a world where control is celebrated. Hustle harder, push through, make it happen. That's what we're told. Sounds empowering on the surface, but let me tell you something. Constantly trying to force things to happen isn't strategy, it's survival mode. It's fear wearing the mask of ambition. And the truth is, forcing control is often a trauma response, not a solution. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you've been through something in your life, maybe a time when you felt powerless, like a job loss, a heartbreak, being abandoned, overlooked, or just not enough, you learn to protect yourself. You start believing that the only way to stay safe is to control everything. You try to plan it all, control the timing, the people, the outcome. Why? Because your nervous system remembers what it felt like to be out of control. That pain, that fear. And now you do everything in your power to make sure you never feel that way again. So what do? You grip life with both hands. You don't trust the process. You try to dominate it. You chase relationships that aren't meant for you. You cling to jobs that drain your soul. You obsess over every detail, every text, every step of the journey. And if things aren't moving fast enough, you push harder. You get frustrated. You start spiraling. You tell yourself you're not doing enough, that maybe you need to fix something else, sacrifice more sleep, more peace, more of you, just to make it happen. But here's the problem with that. Control is an illusion. The more you try to force something, the more resistance you create. Think about it. Have you ever tried to force a conversation with someone who wasn't ready to talk? Or push yourself into a room you weren't meant to be in? That energy, it doesn't feel empowering. It feels desperate. And people can feel that. Life can feel that. That energy blocks what's meant for you. And neurologically, your brain doesn't work well under that kind of pressure. When you're in a state of control and fear, your brain switches into fight or flight. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and creativity, shuts down. You literally can't think clearly when you're trying to force everything. That's why you make poor choices. That's why you feel stuck. That's why no matter how hard you try, nothing feels like it's clicking. Now, here's the truth nobody talks about enough. The most powerful shift you can make is learning to let go. Not give up, let go. There's a difference. Giving up is rooted in defeat. Letting go is rooted in trust. It's a decision to stop white-knuckling life and start listening to your own inner wisdom. It's choosing to believe that you don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just have to align with it. That takes courage. It takes healing. And it takes learning a whole new way of being. When you stop forcing, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for the right people and opportunities to enter. Space for your nervous system to calm down so your brain can function properly again. You start noticing things you missed before. The signs, the ideas, the tiny nudges from your intuition that you couldn't hear over all that noise. That's when things start falling into place. Not because you're pushing, but because you're allowing. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to not ruin something by smothering it. It means you're strong enough to surrender, to trust that what's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to have it, that the right job won't need you to lose your sanity, the right relationship won't require you to beg, the right opportunity won't feel like you're fighting a war just to prove your worth. You don't have to force your future into being. You need to heal the part of you that believes force is the only way to survive. And that starts with awareness. Start paying attention to when you're trying to control too much. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, am I moving from fear or from trust? Then choose differently. That's how the shift begins. Not all at once, but one brave moment at a time. You're not here to force your way through life. You're here to live it. To experience joy, growth, connection. And that doesn't happen when you're constantly in control mode. It happens when you lean in, when you trust, and when you finally give yourself permission to let things unfold. Because believe me, when you stop forcing it, everything starts falling into place. We spend so much time trapped in our heads, don't we? Obsessing over every possible outcome. Replaying past conversations, rehearsing future ones, planning the plan for the plan. And the lie we tell ourselves is that if we just think harder, if we just analyze it one more time, we'll finally get clarity. We'll finally know what to do. But that's not how clarity works. Clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from taking action. Most people don't have a clarity problem. They have a courage problem. The truth is, you usually know what you need to do. You feel it in your gut. You hear that little voice in the back of your mind that says, it's time to move on, or you need to try that, or this isn't it. But instead of acting on it, you try to logic your way into confidence. You think if you just wait long enough or research enough or get enough outside validation, you'll feel ready. Spoiler alert, you never do. Here's the deal. Your brain's job is to protect you. And one of the ways it does that is by keeping you stuck in thought loops. Overthinking feels productive. It tricks you into believing you're making progress. But what you're really doing is avoiding the discomfort of action, because action carries risk. Action means stepping into the unknown. It means leaving the safety of what's familiar, even if that familiar thing is toxic, unfulfilling, or clearly not working. But the only way you're ever going to get true clarity is by doing something. Taking the next step, making the call, sending the email, signing up for the course, having the hard conversation. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to move, because motion creates clarity. When you act, you get feedback, you learn, you adjust, you grow. And that's how you figure out what works and what doesn't. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're stuck in a job that makes you miserable. You've been thinking about quitting for months. You've made pros and cons lists. You've talked to friends. You've read articles about career transitions. You've imagined all the worst-case scenarios. But nothing is changing because you haven't taken a step, even something small, like reaching out to someone in a field you're interested in, or updating your resume, or applying to one job, could trigger a wave of clarity. Suddenly, you're not just thinking about change, you're creating it. You're in motion. Or maybe you're dealing with a relationship that feels off. You've thought about every possible angle. You've analyzed their behavior, your childhood wounds, your attachment styles, everything. But what you haven't done is sit down and have the conversation that could actually move the relationship forward or bring it to a close. Because that's scary, that's vulnerable, that's uncertain. But again, clarity doesn't live in your mind, it lives in experience. When you stop trying to force clarity and start taking imperfect action, things begin to shift. You stop trying to predict the future and start shaping it. You stop spinning in anxiety and start gaining real insight. You learn what you're capable of. You discover what you actually want. You begin to trust yourself, not because you have all the answers, but because you're willing to show up anyway. And here's the beautiful part. Once you start moving, the obsession begins to fade. You're no longer caught in that loop of what if and should I? Because you're too busy doing something. And even if it doesn't go perfectly, even if you fail or stumble or get it wrong, you're still further ahead than you were when you were just thinking about it. Action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. And confidence brings clarity. That's the chain. That's how it works. And it's accessible to you right now. You don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today to move forward? Then do it. Let it be messy. Let it be awkward. Let it be uncertain. But do something. Because clarity isn't found in control. It isn't found in certainty. It's found in motion. You don't need to have the whole staircase mapped out to take the first step. The path becomes clear as you walk it. So stop trying to think your way into your future. Take the step. Make the move. That's how you find what you've been looking for, not in your head, but in your actions. Your brain is an incredible machine. It's built to protect you, to help you survive, and to make sense of the world around you. But here's something most people don't realize. Your brain is not built for clarity under pressure. It's not designed to perform at its best when you're forcing, pushing, and grinding from a place of stress or desperation. In fact, the harder you try to control everything, the more your brain works against you. Let's get into the science for a second. When you're feeling calm and safe, your brain's prefrontal cortex is active. That's the part of your brain responsible for problem solving, decision-making, creativity, and long-term planning. It's the part of your brain that helps you stay focused, set goals, and act with intention. Basically, it's where your best thinking lives. But the moment you start feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or out of control, your brain flips a switch. It activates the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response. This is a survival mechanism that evolved to help you react quickly to danger. So instead of thoughtful decisions, your brain goes into reaction mode. Your heart races, your thoughts become scattered, you become impulsive. You're no longer thinking clearly, you're just trying to survive the moment. Now, what does this have to do with forcing things? Everything. Because when you're trying to force an outcome, when you're obsessing over results, trying to manipulate timing, pushing for perfection, you're putting your brain into a constant state of stress. You're signaling to your nervous system that something is wrong, that you're not safe, and that you need to control everything in order to feel okay. That creates tension in your body and confusion in your mind. It blocks clarity, it kills creativity. It puts you in a mental fog where everything feels urgent and nothing feels right. Think about how that shows up in your life. Have you ever tried to write an email or have a tough conversation when you were panicking? Your words don't come out the way you want them to. You second-guess everything. You read into every pause, every look, every delay, and the more you try to get it right, the more your brain shuts down. You can't tap into your instincts. You can't see things clearly. You're not accessing your best self. You're just reacting. This is why trying harder doesn't always work. It's not that you're not capable. It's that you're approaching the problem from a stressed state of mind. You're fighting your own biology. And no amount of willpower can override a nervous system that's locked in fear. The antidote to this isn't to give up, it's to shift your state. Instead of forcing your way forward, you have to calm your body and clear your mind. You have to get out of survival mode and back into alignment. That might mean stepping away from the problem for a moment, taking a walk, getting some sleep, breathing deeply, journaling, talking to someone. Anything that helps you regulate your nervous system and reconnect with yourself. Because when you're calm, everything becomes easier. The next step becomes obvious. You can access your intuition. You can see solutions that weren't there before. You can be creative and resourceful and strategic. You can stop reacting and start responding. This is why some of your best ideas come to you in the shower, or when you're driving, or when you're doing something completely unrelated to the problem you're trying to solve. Because in those moments, you're not forcing. You're relaxed, you're present. Your brain is in a state that allows insight to rise to the surface. So the next time you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're hitting a wall, don't push harder. Pause, breathe, do something to shift your state. Because it's not about how much effort you're applying. It's about the quality of the energy behind that effort. When your mind is clear and your body is calm, everything changes. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop trying to control everything, and you start showing up as the version of you that can handle anything. Remember, your brain is wired to protect you, but it's also wired to support you when you're in the right state. Trust that. Work with your biology, not against it. And watch how things start falling into place, not through force, but through clarity. People can feel your energy before you even speak. It's not about the words you use or how confident you sound. It's about what you're carrying inside. And when you're forcing things, forcing conversations, relationships, decisions, timing, there's an edge to your energy that pushes people away. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. If your energy is rooted in fear, desperation, or the need to control, it creates resistance. That's just how life works. Think about the last time someone came at you with that kind of energy. Maybe it was a friend pressuring you to agree with them, or a coworker trying way too hard to prove something, or someone in a relationship needing constant reassurance. Even if you cared about them, that energy probably made you feel overwhelmed, uncomfortable, maybe even a little trapped. Why? Because nobody likes to be manipulated, even when it's subtle, and that's what forcing is. It's a form of control that's masked as effort. We do this all the time without realizing it. We try to force people to see our value, to love us back, to give us the validation we won't give ourselves. We force conversations because we're scared of silence. We force decisions because uncertainty makes us anxious. We force outcomes because we think if we don't, nothing good will happen. But the more you do that, the more you push away what you actually want. Here's what's really happening when you're in that energy. You're operating from lack. You're moving from the belief that something is missing, and it's your job to fix it. And that mindset creates tension. Not just in your body, but in your interactions with others. People sense it. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. It makes them pull back, close off, or distance themselves. Now let's flip that. Think about the times in your life when you were in flow, when you weren't trying so hard, when you were just being yourself, when you trusted your timing, trusted the process, and didn't try to control everything. What happened? People were drawn to you, opportunities showed up, conversations flowed. You felt more confident, more relaxed, more in tune. That's not a coincidence. That's alignment. There's a natural rhythm to life, and when you're in alignment, things happen more easily. You're not fighting reality, you're moving with it, and people respond to that energy. It's magnetic, it's grounded, it doesn't need anything from anyone, it just is. You don't see the lessons they had to learn. You don't see the work they did when no one was watching. And you can't skip that part. No one can. Because if you shortcut your growth, you sabotage your future. Being ready means more than being eager. It means having the emotional maturity to handle setbacks, the discipline to keep going when it gets hard, the confidence to trust yourself when there's no validation. It means being grounded enough not to let success define you, and strong enough not to let failure destroy you. That kind of readiness doesn't happen overnight. It's built through experience, through showing up, through staying when it's uncomfortable, through choosing growth over ease. And here's the beautiful part. While you're in that waiting season, while it looks like nothing is happening, everything is actually happening. You're being shaped, molded, refined. The setbacks are building your resilience. The quiet seasons are strengthening your faith. The doors that close are redirecting you towards something better. But if you're too busy forcing it, you'll miss all of that. You'll miss the lesson. You'll miss the preparation. And that means you won't be ready when the right thing finally does show up. That's why trust is everything. Trust doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop trying to micromanage the outcome. It means you keep showing up, doing the work, and allowing things to unfold at the pace they're meant to. Not slower, not faster, exactly as they need to. Because if you receive something before you're ready, it won't feel like a blessing. It'll feel like pressure. It'll feel like something you're constantly trying to hold on to, rather than something you're able to enjoy and sustain. So if something isn't happening for you right now, ask yourself, am I being prepared? Is there something I still need to learn? Is this space an opportunity for me to become the version of myself who can actually thrive when it does arrive? You're not behind. You're becoming. You're not being denied. You're being developed. And when you start to see the waiting season as a gift, as a sacred space for growth, everything changes. You stop rushing, you stop comparing, you stop forcing, and instead you lean in, you listen, you prepare. Because when you're ready, truly ready, what's meant for you won't just come into your life. It will stay, it will flow, and it will feel aligned in a way that nothing forced ever could. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about releasing the illusion that you're in control of everything. It's about choosing peace over pressure, trust over fear, and flow over force. Most people misunderstand surrender. They think it means sitting back and doing nothing. But surrender is not passive. It's not weak. It's one of the most powerful decisions you can make, because it requires you to lean into trust when your mind is screaming for certainty. We are taught from a young age that effort equals results, that if you just try hard enough, stay disciplined, hustle constantly, you'll get what you want. And yes, effort matters. Discipline matters. But the problem comes when you attach your worth to outcomes. When you believe that everything depends on how much you do, how much you chase, how much you control, that's when effort turns into desperation. That's when you move out of alignment and into force. The truth is, some things in life are not meant to be controlled. Some doors will open only when you stop banging on them. Some relationships will heal only when you stop trying to fix them. Some clarity will come only when you stop chasing answers. That's what surrender gives you, the space to receive. Because when your hands are clenched tight, trying to hold everything together, there's no room for something new to land. But when you release the grip, when you finally let go, you create space. Space for something better, something truer, something real. Surrender is the moment you stop trying to make it happen and you start allowing it to unfold. It's the deep breath after the breakdown. It's the pause that says, I don't have to know exactly how this ends to trust that I'm going to be okay. and that shift in energy changes everything. Because when you surrender, your nervous system calms down. Your mind clears. Your perspective widens. You're no longer driven by panic. You're grounded in presence. Think about a time in your life when you were pushing for something and it just wouldn't move. You were exhausting yourself trying to get it right, make it happen, fix the problem, and nothing worked. Then, finally, you gave up. You let go. Maybe out of frustration, or maybe because you were just too tired to fight anymore. And the moment you did that, something shifted. A solution appeared. And someone reached out. The weight lifted. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. You don't manifest what you want by chasing it down. You manifest what you are ready to receive. And readiness doesn't come through force. It comes through surrender. Through aligning your actions with faith instead of fear. Through showing up, doing your part, and then trusting life to meet you halfway. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Surrender also means accepting what is, not resisting it, not trying to twist it into something it's not, but seeing it clearly, honestly, and fully without judgment. Saying, okay, this is where I am. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe I wish it were different. But I accept this moment for what it is, and I'll respond from here. That level of presence is rare, but it's powerful. Because when you stop arguing with reality, you free up all the energy you were using to fight, and you can finally use it to create. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming, you don't stop wanting, you don't stop growing, but you stop believing that you have to manipulate everything to feel safe. You stop living in the future or obsessing over the past. You come back to the now, and from that grounded place, your actions become more powerful, more intentional, more inspired. Surrender teaches you to soften, not to break, but to bend, to be flexible without losing your core. To trust that what's meant for you is already making its way to you, even if you can't see it yet. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be open. You just have to keep showing up with your heart intact, your hands open, and your spirit steady. Because when you surrender, you stop forcing. And when you stop forcing, everything starts to flow. The right people come. The right opportunities unfold. The clarity you've been searching for begins to rise. Not because you chased it, but because you made space for it. Let go. Trust the process. Let life surprise you. Because often the moment you stop trying to control everything is the moment everything starts to fall into place.